Possibly more than any other company, Mazda is playing the long game with EVs. They don't seem to be in a rush. Today, we're going to talk about their EV strategy and how it's slowly evolving here in North America. But a big portion of this video today is going to talk about what's going on with China, not only with Mazda, but a lot of the Japanese automakers as well as the Koreans and the domestics. It's not looking good over there. So grab your snacks and drinks and buckle in. Starting at automotive news, Mazda's North American EV production may happen actually in Mexico. Okay, so they have two plants here in North America. They have one in Alabama where they make the CX-50, and production volume there is very, very low. They only are producing about 40,000 per year, when capacity at that plant, if it's running full tilt, can produce up to 150,000. So you would think they would have capacity there to build EVs, but it looks like they're preferring Mexico, the Salamanca plant, where they build CX-3, CX-30, as well as some Mazda 3 models. Their new CEO, Masahiro Moro, is saying that automotive EV production in North America will start around 2028. Now, that's when phase 3 starts for them. But the previous CEO said it would have started in phase 2 in North America. And previously it would have been 2026, 2027. Now they're pushing it to 2028 at the earliest. They're still planning to inject over $10 billion into electrification through 2030. And they're going to have two different types of electric vehicles. And this is going to sound awfully familiar compared to Toyota. So let's get into their strategy. So one of their style of EVs is going to be based on their existing platforms and architecture. So that will also accommodate internal combustion engines, hybrids, and then full-on battery electric vehicles. Now, since they're looking at the Salamanca plant in Mexico, maybe we could see fully battery electric versions of the Mazda 3 and the CX-30. We don't get the CX-3 here anymore. It's a little too small, and the CX-30 is better anyways. And I think more people would actually be interested in a hybrid Mazda 3 and a hybrid Mazda CX-30 than full-on battery electric variants of them. So we'll see what kind of volume they're able to produce down there in that Mexico plant, as well as which models. Like I said, Mazda 3 and Mazda CX-30 makes the most sense to me to convert those to have a battery electric option. So that's just one option. Second option in style of battery electric vehicles is going to be fully skateboard platform, dedicated EV platform. That dedicated EV platform, though, is not expected to be in Mexico, at least not initially. They will start producing this dedicated EV platform from Japan. So that'll probably be 2026, 2027, but we have to import them from Japan. That means they won't qualify for EV tax credit. So regardless of how good they are, they just won't be price competitive, more than likely. But the Mazda 3 BEV or the Mazda CX-30 BEV from Mexico would qualify for the EV tax credit. And if they can put in some affordable LFP batteries, let's say 200 to 250 miles of range, sell them for $25,000, $30,000 starting, I think they could have some successful traction there with those conversion battery electric vehicles on current platforms. But let's go back to the American plant for Mazda, where they are producing less than a third of their capacity of the CX-50. They are not focused at all producing battery electric vehicles there in the near future. In fact, their main focus is producing hybrid variants of their CX-50. We still don't have any word on when those are coming. Hopefully by the end of 2024. And since it's the same sort of style of vehicle as, let's say, a RAV4, same segment, hopefully it gets a 2.5 liter hybrid setup with around 230 to 240 horsepower. That'd be excellent with all-wheel drive. And if they even wanted to do BEVs, they essentially need to get the okay from Toyota, who runs the Corolla Cross production on the other half of that Alabama plant. So I would think they're just going to ramp up Corolla Cross hybrid as well as Mazda CX-50 hybrids at that plant until the end of the decade. Maybe plug-in hybrids, but I highly doubt it. And when Moro was asked about building a new battery electric vehicle plant in America, he simply said, we don't have the money for it. So there you go. They're not going to be building any more plants in North America, at least in the near future, despite Mazda wanting to make 25 to 40% of its global sales as battery electric vehicles in 2030. Now, that is very conservative. The US government, their proposal, or the current administration is saying, oh, 60+% BEV by 2030. But I've already made a video this week saying that the market's speaking out and not buying EVs unless they're Teslas. So you're having all these EVs pile up at dealerships from your traditional automakers because they're not cost competitive and they're just not as efficient, and you don't have the Tesla supercharging network. But a lot of Tesla's advantages will be fading out as we go forward into around 2030 or so. Morrow's really hesitant on the current administration, saying, "I don't know if electrification will continue in the direction desired by the Biden administration. I don't think it will. Not even in California, I don't see them selling 60% battery electric vehicles by 2030. I don't think they have the electric grid to support it, but time will tell." But that's definitely 60% BEV for the rest of America. Definitely won't happen by 2032. But we're going to head over to Market Screener because Mazda's Chinese strategy needs a reworking because they are sinking fast over there. You have two massive companies swallowing up market share right now in China, and it's not traditional. It's BYD as well as Tesla. And then you have all these additional startups from Chinese automakers that are carving out their own small market share as well, while all the market share of traditional OEMs has been shrinking. So if we look at what happened to Mazda here, sales in China peaked in 2016 at over 316,000 vehicles. In 2022 for Mazda, they shrunk to 108,000 vehicles, and I don't think they're even pacing that much volume here in 2023. So they're about a quarter of what their sales were just a few years ago. It's not looking good for Mazda, but we're also going to talk about Mitsubishi here. Mitsubishi is suspending production at their plants because there's just no demand for their vehicles. Sales and production peaked in 2018 when they sold 144,000 units and they made $2.7 billion in revenue. Last year, they sold 33,500 vehicles, so about a quarter of their figures from 2018. Honda and Nissan also seeing big drops in their sales volume in China. Honda's down 20% year over year. Now look at here's the crazy thing. So they're pacing maybe 230,000 vehicles this year. Honda's sales are down 22% for the first half of this year. If we look at Nissan, for the first 6 months, they are down 24% as well. Hyundai and Kia are not spared from this slaughter from Chinese automakers. So even though Hyundai has seen double-digit sales growth in the first half of 2023, it's a far cry from their peak. In 2016, they sold 1.13 million units. In the first half this year, they only sold 123,000. So you go from 1.1 million in 2016 to maybe 260,000 here in 2023. They've sold off 2 of their plants in the past few years, and now they're looking to just reduce the amount of models that they sell there and focus more on premium stuff. General Motors in China, check this out. They're down 10% on the year, so they're not getting slaughtered as bad as the rest. And Toyota as well, I think they're down a little less than 3% on the first half. So they're doing okay, not great, but compared to a lot of the competition out there, at least the traditional competition, they're doing really well. Same thing with General Motors, only down 10% in the first half this year, but second quarter, they're up about 9%. So General Motors is looking strong as they head into the second half for a traditional OEM. Meanwhile, while all those companies are down in China, look at what they're doing in the United States. The overall market here is up about 13% so far this year. Now, we mentioned Mazda's down massively. If we look at their sales in the United States for the first half, they're up 28%. General Motors up 18%, Honda up 25%, and the list goes on and on and on. So the American market, for now, we'll see what happens when student loans start back up at I think it's end of August, so early October. And that's going to put a dent on sales, I think, in the United States as well. But there's a lot of shakeup happening in the global industry, from technology to automotive sales, automotive power as well, from shifting from traditional to new companies, as well as startups, as well as the electrification switch over and how fast it happens and which areas. It's a lot of fun to talk about. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe for more. If you made it this far, hit the like button. I really appreciate that. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.